Yeah, I was tagged by Ridima. You should watch her book tag video, which is excellent. I'm gonna go right ahead and just get into these questions. Fantasy Reader Booktag. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. What is your fantasy origin story? Let's be real, my fantasy origin story begins and ends with the Chronicles of Narnia. I read The Magician's Nephew. I think for second grade, we were supposed to read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Little did I know it was published much later and is actually the prequel. I had no idea that it was all Christian allusions and all that. I didn't get any of that, but yeah, that series was just magical. I especially love The Horse and His Boy, which is kind of underrated, I think. Also, a fantasy book that I love was The Phantom Motherfucking Tollbooth. What a great, funny, hilarious book. I read that a few times. Also, the A Wrinkle in Time series. I was really into science fiction early on, but I read a lot of old, like Jules Verne and H.G. Wells. I was really into that. A Wrinkle in Time kind of, it's hard to classify it because it's not exactly, it's sort of science fiction, but it's also fantasy and also kind of children's, but also not really. So, and then I read, Harry Potter. Who didn't read Harry Potter? If you could be the hero of a fantasy novel, who would be the author and what's one trope you'd insist on being in the story? I would want Stephen King to write the book where I'm the hero, but that's not because I've been reading a lot of Stephen King lately. It's because Stephen King's really good at just writing ordinary lives with a dash of like really interesting, crazy stuff in it. I like to think I'm just a regular guy. And one trope I'd insist on is the nerdy character who doesn't really like do anything significant and is like cowardly, but then gets really impulsive and does like something crazy courageous, like Neville in the 7th Harry Potter book. Because I'm generally across the board a coward in life. There'd have to be also a meet cute kind of romance plot, because I like those, and that's kind of how my wife and I met, so that'd be in there. What is a fantasy book you've read this year that you want more people to read? The Dark Tower. I mean, specifically The Drawing of the Three, because for a fantasy book, it's like action thriller. It's insane. That's what I love about the Dark Tower series. I feel like each book is uniquely different. An upcoming fantasy release you're excited for? I can't think of a single one, honestly. I don't know what's new. I'm not reading a lot of newer fantasy books, and that's my issue. That's something I want to correct in 2021. I want to read more modern fantasy. What is one misconception about fantasy that you'd like to lay to rest? The idea that fantasy is all Game of Thrones, dragons kind of stuff. Like, fantasy encompasses so much. It is so inclusive of tropes and genres. I think there's this idea that fantasy writers and fantasy books have to be limited to a certain type of world, certain type of world building, a certain type of magic system. Fantasy is the breaking of expectations. The greatest stories that we love are fantasy. Mythological tales. Storytelling is fantastical, So if someone had never read a fantasy before and asked you to recommend the first 3 books that comes to mind as places to start, what would those recommendations be? Read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, read The Gunslinger, and The Hobbit. It's a weird mixture I picked there. I guess you should probably read, read The Way of Kings too. Go for it. I don't know. Anyways, I hope I did some kind of justice to that book tag. Truly, I'd like to thank Ridima for tagging me in this. This was a lot of fun. I would like to tag some people as well. Shipwrecked Library. I mean, come on. It's Shipwrecked Library. Pablo Suarez, who is making really good content. Yasmin be reading, one of my favorite channels. Andy Smith, amazing. Zach at Middle Fantasy recently did a really great workout training video for bridge runs, like in the Stormlight Archive. So those are the people I'm tagging. This is my fantasy story. Thank you for watching. Bye.